Right, it's now my very great pleasure, other people have mentioned him already, to introduce to you Julian Critchley, our parliamentary candidate. I haven't known Julian very long, but since he's come to the island, he's already established himself as someone who's very credible, he's very knowledgeable, he's very likeable, and he's also, in terms of taking on the candidacy, he's established a little tradition that every other candidate has to live in Queen's Road in, right? So, Julian, I have to say, in terms of working with you so far, I've really enjoyed it. I think you've thrown yourself already into this with a massive passion. I think you've been really combative on social media. I think you've also been very sensitive in terms of taking over from Stuart, and I think that's really helpful as well. I think everyone's enjoying working with you, and we look forward to working with you over the weeks ahead. But I have to say, I think you face a difficult challenge. I've enjoyed the way that we've tried to talk about things, and we've worked together in terms of those difficulties you might face. It's been great that all the previous parliamentary candidates in recent years have been here, and in chronological order: Deborah, me, Stuart. Sadly, Ken Pearson couldn't have been here, can't be here because he passed away about 18 months ago, but I'm sure he's with us here in spirit. Julian, the floor is yours. We wish you well, and then I know you're going to speak for about 10-15 minutes, and then there'll be a question and answer session. Julian Critchley, everyone.
Thanks, Matt. Hello. One of the worst things about coming after three people have just said lots of nice things about you is you can't possibly succeed. Yeah. Now look, when I first heard that the Labour Party wasn't going to allow local parties to choose their own candidates, they were going to be selected centrally, there was going to be no vote, I thought that was wrong. I thought, especially after the shenanigans of the last leadership election, I thought it was unnecessary, it was undemocratic, just plain wrong. And then they selected me. Now, look, before I go on, to tell you why I'm here, taking advantage of that undemocratic, unnecessary, and just plain wrong selection process, I just want to draw your attention to someone who I'm going to invite down to the stage, which is Alexander Buggy. Alexander, can you come on down? Now, I know that I spoke to Esther Poucher's mum. I'm not sure whether Esther actually made it today, or if she didn't, then, she's here in spirit. Alexander is one of the very brave young men, and don't let the beard fool you, he's still at school. He's one of the very brave young men who was at Christ the King College when our previous MP decided that he was going to turn up there and tell the kids in the school that being gay was wrong, that they were a danger to society. And I have to tell you, when I was their age, I'm not sure I would have been able to do what they did, because within minutes of that happening, we were receiving messages at the Isle of Wight Labour Party from people like Alexander and some of his friends saying, this is what happened and it cannot stand. Someone needs to do something about this. Now, I know a lot of adults sitting in this room might think that, but an awful lot of us, faced with an MP, a sitting MP in front of us saying these things, would turn the other cheek. And they didn't. And what's more, they brought him down. Now, that means a bunch of school kids achieved more in this election than anyone expected me to. Now look, a lot of these kids were young Labour supporters and members. They didn't do it because they're young Labour supporters and members. They did it because they were the sort of people who joined the Labour Party. People who stand up for their principles. People who refuse to stay quiet when an injustice is being done. And people who will speak truth to power. And I'm just incredibly proud of those people, their friends, whether they were in the Labour Party or not, frankly. I'm incredibly proud of all those kids who stood up to bigotry and chucked out an MP who should never have been allowed to represent the people of this island with views like that. So as far as I'm concerned, I want to show some appreciation. Alexander's on the stage, but this is for all those kids who did that good thing. Let's show him what we think of that. So that wasn't a bad start, getting rid of the MP before the election. Now look, I'm going to talk today about why we're here, because this is a gathering of friends. We're all here on the same side. You know, you're not just random members of the public, you're Labour people, you're Labour supporters, you're thinking about supporting Labour. So I'm talking to you as that. I mean, we know why Alexander's here, so I can bask in some reflective glory. I'm going to talk about why I'm here, and then I'm going to talk about why you might be here. I am the candidate. I did put my name forward, and I put my name forward at a time when, you know, you all see the media. I must be mad, right? Yeah? Dead cert loser. What on earth are you doing? Well, I'll tell you why I'm doing it. Three reasons I'll give you. Fear, idealism, and rage. So let me talk about those. Fear. I am terrified of what the Tories are doing to this country. I am terrified of where they are taking it. We have seen what 7 years of Conservative governments have done to our public services, and it has been death by 1,000 cuts. We've got our hospitals having services stripped away from them. Not just here, when they're being sent over to Southampton, but all over the country. We've seen schools, and you know, let's face it, we've seen it here this week on this island, suffering from Conservative cuts. They don't give us stuff about public services. They've never given us stuff about public services. Another 5 years of that, I fear where our public services end up. I fear for what they want for us in our workplaces. Their image of a workplace appears to be some sort of Victorian factory where insecure workers on poverty wages are forced to do unsafe and unpleasant things because the alternative is starvation. And I mean starvation. We have people going to food banks. In one of the richest countries in the world, we have hundreds of thousands of people going to food banks. And a Tory Prime Minister who, when asked about that, when asked why nurses were going to food banks, said, oh, well, there are lots of complicated reasons why people go to food banks.
Starving.
Yeah. No, there aren't. They go to food banks because they can't afford to eat. And to have nurses unable to eat, it's disgusting. And it makes me scared. It makes me scared of what might be coming over the next 5 years. And then my last fear is when you have, I mean, I'm going to draw on my background as a history teacher here. When you have a national leader who stands outside the national, you know, whatever it is, whether it's Downing Street or the Chancellery, and blames foreigners for meddling in national affairs, egged on by a frothing-mouthed, swivel-eyed press that describes our own countrymen as saboteurs and traitors. I can tell you now, that's not going anywhere good. It's never gone anywhere good in the past. And that frightens me. It frightens me that we have a Prime Minister who is willing to unleash the sort of demons that can unleash. So, I'm scared. And as I taught many, many kids in my previous job, all it takes for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And I think you can't keep preaching that at kids if you're not willing to actually stand up and do something yourself. So, I'm scared. I will do something. But of course, it's not enough to point at the onrushing darkness. You have to shine a light. You have to shine a light of where people will go. And that's where idealism comes in. And here, frankly, I'm in clover in this election. I love this. There have been policies in previous elections from the Labour Party which, let's be honest, I might have struggled to sell with wholehearted enthusiasm. But this time round, my God, you know, properly funding the NHS and the education service, fantastic. Bringing railways back into public ownership, well, you know, about time. £500 billion invested in the economy so we can create real jobs, real industry, real business. More bobbies on the beat, which I know is, you know, it's often mocked, but actually our communities, they like to see policemen on the street. They like to see policemen dealing with low-level antisocial behaviour, and why not? 4 bank holidays. I mean, if we can't sell 4 free holidays... And then, of course, 1 million homes, half of which will be social housing to replace the housing that was stolen from us by the various Thatcherite governments over the last 40 years. As a set of policies go, I don't have any trouble at all standing up and selling that lot to anybody. Enthusiastically, wholeheartedly. In fact, there's a bit of me that doesn't really understand why everyone in the country isn't already voting Labour. Underneath that, underpinning that, there is a philosophy which I think is just worth teasing out. And it's a philosophy which matters a lot to me, something I've been waiting for a long time, which is that we're taking back control of our country. Now, I heard a few people take a bit of a sharp intake of breath there. It's all right, you didn't appoint a UKIPper by accident. I don't want to take back control from the Polish nurse at St Mary's. I want to take back control of our NHS from the American companies which are currently robbing it. I don't want to take back control of our schools from the Spanish language assistant in Ryde Academy. I want to take back control of our schools from the companies like AET who are currently shutting them down. And I don't want to take back control from the Bengali ticket inspector on the Island Line. I want to take back control of our railways so that my fares aren't subsidising the French and German governments. That's what I want to take back control from. We have had our public services stolen from us over the last 40 years. We paid for them, we built them, and they have been taken from us and they have been given to profiting private companies. Now that is wrong. I want them back. And I'll tell you why I want them back. It's not just because I'm an economist by training and I think all the guff about private is always better than public is nonsense, but it is. I want them back because is anyone really surprised that when we take away the positive bonds of citizenship that come along with those schools being ours, they're all our schools, we own them, they're accountable to us. Those hospitals are ours, we all go to them, we own them, they're accountable to us. The railways are ours, we own them and they serve us. When you take away those common bonds, even things like the post office, which is now gone, are we surprised when people who are social animals, who crave belonging, who want to be part of something, are we surprised that they then reach perhaps for other ways of showing their collective nature, other darker connections between people, the connections of tribe, of race, of nationality, when we've removed the positive bonds of citizenship and public ownership? I don't think I'm surprised. I don't think it's coincidental that what we're seeing in terms of the upsurge of hate crimes in this country is because we've been turned into this atomized individual collective of consumers instead of citizens who share services. We need a government that works for us, that runs our services for us. So yeah, I'm enjoying the idealism of this. Which brings me to rage. When I was a teacher, I have no idea how close to hold this to my mouth. When I was a teacher, my colleagues used to hear me talking about Michael Gove and they thought I was powered by rage. And it's true. You only need to mention Gove's name to me and a little vein starts pulsing here. Blood pressure goes up. Some swearing can happen. Anger is mostly a destructive emotion, but anyone who's ever played rugby knows that it can also be incredibly motivational. And I'm angry. I'm angry about what's being done. Now I could right old... Sorry, Jeff, I've upset you. I'm not saying that just crushed my spirits. I'm angry about what's being done. I could write a whole speech about what's been done to Jeremy Corbyn. You know, look, whether you like Jeremy Corbyn, whether you love Jeremy Corbyn, or whether you hate Jeremy Corbyn, there isn't one person in this country who doesn't know that what's been done to Jeremy Corbyn in the media in the last 2 years has been completely unfair. Yeah. Now, you know, there are people here who will say, yeah, it was unfair, but he deserved it. Maybe don't identify yourselves. There'll be people... There'll be people here who'll say it was unfair, it's outrageous, the media, but I'm not going to go on about that because, frankly, the internet's full of memes that say one thing or the other. I'm angry about what's been done to you, to us, to people who are in the Labour Party as members, to people who support the Labour Party, to people who are willing to vote for the Labour Party. Because over the last 2 years, a not very subtly hidden subtext of what's been going on is you're mad, right? You're mad. In fact, I'll tell you what, I actually wrote this down so I didn't do a Diane Abbott. Over the last 2 years, the people in this room have been called morons, in need of a brain transplant, entryists, Trotskyites, fanatics, terrorist sympathisers, anti-Semites, cultists, loonies, idiots, brainwashed fools, suicidal fantasists, the far left, the extreme left, the hard left, and indeed the ultra left. And I'm in a room with about 60 of you. Should I be scared? What nonsense. What absolute 24-karat gold garbage. How dare they? How dare they describe you people as that? How dare they describe the Labour Party as that? I don't see that. I see my neighbours. I see people who've turned up because they've got a mild belief in redistribution of wealth. They think maybe public services should be run in the public interest. They think, do you know what? A better Britain might be possible. And for that, you have been demonised across the entire British media for 2 years. And I think that's disgusting. It makes me angry. And I think you either stand up and fight, or you give in. And I'm not ready to give in.